Good evening, friends and followers and fellow alcoholics. I'm Michael Wilson. I am an alcoholic. I have given up the drinks. And tonight I'm thinking about little secrets that I keep when I'm at a party, or the secret that I keep when I'm at parties now, and how it makes me feel really good about keeping it. And that little secret is the fact that I don't drink. And when you come to a place where you've been sober for a little while and you start to realize that you don't need alcohol to enjoy yourself or to feel confident, and in fact you feel more confident after you stop drinking, because realizing that you don't need alcohol actually gives you confidence, which is the ironic thing, because most people, and I did as well, of course, drink because it makes you confident. It lowers your inhibitions and you don't feel the need to hold anything back. You say what's on your mind, to your detriment a lot of the time. Obviously, when you are drinking and you're drunk, you're going to say things that oftentimes you regret. And now it's just so good to feel confident in myself without the drinks and keeping that little secret. And it feels good to not have to tell people that I'm not drinking either. I don't make a big point about it, and I don't think you should. If you start to go sober, go without alcohol, go without the drinks at the parties, I think you're better off just keeping it silent and having that kind of quiet confidence. And honestly, sometimes experiment with it, like make it look like you're drinking, or maybe nursing a little drink, and you'll find that no one cares, no one notices. If you're at all thinking about how, which I think most people do think about, what people are going to think of you when you're not drinking at parties. Oh, that's lame. Why aren't you drinking? Just have a drink. Like, come on. But in reality, I feel like that happens so little, and nowadays it's becoming a lot more accepted, to not drink at parties and outings and things like that, and even like lots of non-alcoholic options and things like that. So that's even making it easier these days. So yeah, I just like to keep quiet about it, kind of have that quiet confidence, that I don't need the drinks in order to feel any type of way. I don't need it for confidence. I have my own confidence now, and I'm proud of that. It makes you proud to know that you don't need that. You don't need a substance. You don't need a thing in order to make you proud of yourself or confident. And then you actually have your full brain power, not under the influence of alcohol. You're not going to just forget what you're talking about in the middle of your sentence and laugh about it and move on. You can actually hold thoughts together and coherent sentences and not slur your words. That was particularly toxic for me, really, as a drinker, because I held it together really well, like when I was drinking, and it made me feel like I was a really good talker. And in a way, yes, it helps you talk because you don't really care about your normal inhibitions, right? That stop you from, or don't give you you don't have enough confidence, to say what's really on your mind. But the alcohol lets you do that, which is why so many people love it and why so many people drink, is because it lowers their inhibitions. And in a way, for just that little bit, when you're starting out with the buzz kind of thing, that it loosens you up, and it allows you to just, what you think is like, be yourself, but it's not yourself. It's the alcoholic you, and it's just affecting your brain and making it so that it's lowering your inhibitions. Everyone knows that, really, but it's not something that you kind of consciously think about when you're drinking. And so that really is, for me, a new sense of pride and confidence in myself, that I can go to a party without drinks, and I can talk to people, without having drinks in me, or thinking that I'm, a better speaker or more fun to be around, when I have alcohol. And then you get the real benefit, which is like not feeling like crap the next day or for the next week. If you're like heavily binge drinking for a weekend, like you are just tanking all of your nutrients and vitamins, like in your brain, the way your body works, your heart, everything. It's absolutely throwing out your biology for like a night or maybe two of some lowered inhibitions, so that you can feel like you are having a good time. And when you sit back and realize that, it seems utterly ridiculous that I would ever want to do that. But I did it for many, many years. I'm almost 40 now, and I just have come to that realization, and it was only after I really went through a heavy period of being a true alcoholic and getting drunk every single day that, that it took me kind of getting to the rock bottom, as it does often for people, to realize, or that's the catalyst for starting to, realize what's going on with you. Obviously that doesn't always work, and people just keep drinking and keep getting drunk. But I just realized, for me, it wasn't the life that I want to live for me. I want my health, and I want my family's health, and I wouldn't want them to do what I was doing. I wouldn't want them to drink every day and get drunk, so why would I do it? It's some of these questions you have to ask yourself sometimes, and get real with yourself, get real with why you drink. What are you doing it for? What are you really think about it. Really think about why you feel like you have to drink, or why you do drink, and think about if you're not thinking about it, if that makes sense. Actually consider the fact that you don't want to think about why you drink or the reason for you drinking, which is another kind of like heavy conclusion you have to come to, or when you start to think about what you really don't want to, because your mind is going to resist that. The alcohol brain, what does it want? It wants more alcohol. So it doesn't want you to think about why you shouldn't drink, or what's the point in this, or why am I doing this. You're not really going to have those thoughts, on your own, unless, for me, I just saw some light at the end of the tunnel. It just takes that little glimpse sometimes, and those little realizations, and it's a struggle every day. I'm always going to be an alcoholic. I'm always going to want the beers. I'm always going to want to have a drink at the party, but it now gives me a really, truly fulfilling sense of pride and confidence when I go without the drinks at parties. And now it's really fun to tell people that I don't drink, and I just enjoy that now. It is, it's odd that in society we even need to explain or talk about, or it's even a thing that we don't drink, because it's so prevalent everywhere, and in everyone's get-togethers, family events, everything. So it's just been really interesting and eye-opening, and actually fun and enjoyable and fulfilling to tell people that you don't drink anymore. And, you can feel proud about that because whatever people might think about it, ultimately they will respect you for doing that. And you can respect yourself more. And I think through respecting yourself more, it's like a snowball effect. More people respect you as well because the internal is reflected in the external. What you think of yourself is absolutely reflected in reality and how people treat you and how people see you. And it's just been such a game changer, in life to have a clear consciousness and a clear mind and remember my nights and, not worry about paying, paying for a night, buying drinks, spending money on alcohol. It's not worth it to me anymore, and I hope that I can, show people as well that it's not worth it, and you don't need to drink either, If you just go a little bit of time without it, maybe even just a couple weeks sometimes, that can really be the catalyst for change, or at least, to completely really lessen the drinking, because when you sit back and look at your life and your experiences and what you're doing in life, you're not remembering it on alcohol or really truly experiencing life on alcohol. You are outsourcing your enjoyment and your fulfillment and your memory